What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Kids Talk Sports podcast. And on today's episode, I'm going to be talking about some college football stuff. I'm going to be giving you guys my top 5 rankings, and then I'm going to be talking about the Alabama-Tennessee game and the Texas-Georgia game. So let's get into it. And then I have a question of the week for you guys to answer, and I have 2 shout-outs to give. So first, let's start with the shout-outs. So the first shout-out goes to Theo, who said he thinks Quinn Ewers will win the Heisman because he has a lot of experience in the playoffs. And then Nate R. said he thinks Ashton Jeanty will win the Heisman this year. So shout-out to Theo and Nate R. Thank you guys so much. And so those are the shout-outs for this week. And then, so let's get into this episode. So first up, I'll talk about the Georgia-Texas game. This game was just honestly a bad game. It was kind of boring game. Georgia dominated in the first half. Texas played horrible in the first half. It was kind of like the Georgia-Alabama game where Georgia played horrible in the first half, really good in the second half. Georgia played horrible in that first half. Texas played just as bad in that first half. Georgia ended up taking the dub, 30-15. Georgia, they looked pretty good, but Carson Beck was 23 for 41 with 175 passing yards and 3 interceptions, no touchdowns. Carson Beck, he did not play good at all. He played really bad. But Travis Etienne had 3 touchdowns on the running game. So the running game really carried Georgia that game. Carson Beck really stepped it up in these big games. He hasn't been playing really well in these big games. Against Alabama, I think he had 2 or 3 interceptions too. So Carson Beck's got to step it up because they cannot if they're just going to run the ball, they cannot get away with that against other teams like Oregon, Ohio State, and like Penn State, who have good run defenses. So Georgia takes it up 30-15. Quinn Ewers on the other side had 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He went 25-43 with 211 passing yards. He did get benched though for Arch Manning. There was kind of like the stint at the end, close to the end of the first half, where Quinn Ewers was playing horrible. They brought Arch Manning in to try to see if they could spark something. Arch Manning didn't do great, and they went back to Quinn Ewers. And then Quinn Ewers started to play well. The fans started throwing trash on the field. There was a really controversial call that got overturned. It was like, I think it was a interception, may have been a pick six. It got returned really far, and they got like overturned or something. The fans were very happy. But yeah, so Georgia defeats Texas 30-15. Both teams go to 6-1. Georgia gets moved up in the rankings to number 2, and Texas gets moved down 4 spots to number 5. So yeah, and then the next game we're going to talk about. This game, as you guys know, I'm a big Alabama fan. This game was hard to watch. It didn't end very well for me, but Alabama versus Tennessee. Tennessee did end up taking the dub 24-17. Tennessee, they honestly did not play good at all. They really didn't play good. Neither team played. The first half, both teams played absolutely horrible. Maybe their worst first half of the season. Both teams played. It was 7-0 Alabama after the first half. Jalen Milroe ended the game with 239 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Nico Iamaleava, I think I said that right. Nico Iamaleava had 194 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, and 1 interception. There was a part in the game where he did get injured. They had to bring in their backup. The backup came in for 1 play, threw a deep ball, and it got picked off in return. So that was really funny to watch how their backup just came in and could have ruined the game. But towards the end of the game, Alabama stopped Tennessee's run game, gave up a field goal. They were down 24-17 with a minute and 15 seconds, or I think it was a minute 20 seconds left to go. No timeouts. Had to drive down the field. First play of the game. It's a crossing route to Jeremy Bernard, and Jalen Milroe throws it behind him, and it's picked off, and then Tennessee would eventually go on to win the game and run out the clock. I honestly think Alabama's the better team, though. I'm not even saying that biased, but I honestly think Alabama is the better team. I just think Tennessee played better, though. Nico Iamaleava did not play good by any means, but Dylan Sampson in the run game was really working. So Alabama goes to 5-2 and drops all the way down to the number 15 team in the country. It's going to be hard for them to get back in the playoffs, but I think they can do it. For Tennessee, they go to 6-1 and the number 7 team in the country. They are looking very good. So, again, to recap, you've got Tennessee defeating Alabama 24-17 and Georgia defeating Texas 30-15. Before we wrap up this episode, the last part of this is who I think are my top 5 teams in college football, and then I got a question of the week for you guys to answer. That could be very controversial, and I'd like to hear you guys' opinions. So for my rankings, who I think are the top, this is my opinion on who I think are the top 5 teams in college football. At number 5, coming in at, I think it's 8-0, coming in at 7-0, I've got the Miami Hurricanes, who I think have the Heisman winner, Cam Ward. I think, again, that's controversial. I think he should win it over Ashton Jeanty or over Travis Hunter. Cam Ward, I mean, he's just a really fun player to watch. And he just does it with ease. He looks like he's barely trying. He just does it with ease. It's wild. Miami has a really good offense. Their defense isn't bad. Their run game is really, really good. So I think Miami is the number 5 team in the country. And number 4, I've got Georgia. They just came off a good win against Texas, but I did not like how they played against Alabama. But I think Georgia's solid. Their run game is amazing with Trevor Etienne. So I do think I have Georgia at 4. At number 3, I got Penn State. I don't know about Penn State, okay? I have high hopes on Penn State, but I don't know about Penn State. They really haven't played that team. Like, they haven't played that Alabama, that Georgia, that Tennessee, that Ohio State, that Oregon, that Texas, that you can prove that you can win. Same with Miami. I think Miami and Penn State are those two. I don't know teams, They haven't really proven. I am excited to see the Penn State-Ohio State game, though, to see if Penn State can prove that they are the real deal. Number 2, I've got Ohio State. They lost to Oregon, but I still think with Jeremiah Smith, Will Howard, Quinshon Judkins, and Trayvon Henderson, that is a nasty offense, and their defense is really, really solid with Caleb Downs. And then at number 1, I've got Oregon. They beat Boise State. They've beaten Boise State this year, and they beat Ohio State with Dylan Gabriel, Tez Johnson, and that defense is loaded. And one of the best minds in college football, Dan Lanning. I think that is a great team. So again, my rankings are number 5, I got Miami. Number 4, I've got Georgia. Number 3, Penn State. Number 2, Ohio State. And number 1, Oregon. And for this week's question of the week is, who do you think should be the starter in Texas? Quinn Ewers or Arch Manning? Again, this week's question of the week is, who do you think should be the starter in Texas? Quinn Ewers or Arch Manning? I know this is very controversial with Quinn Ewers coming back and not playing well. So you can send in your answer to this week's question of the week and previous question of the weeks to my email. My email is talksportswithmason@gmail.com. Again, my email is talksportswithmason@gmail.com. And if you answer, I'll give you a shout out on the podcast. And as always, thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Peace.